I think Bhupan represents a sort of figure who really early on had the confidence to express himself and to decide that he was going to have a career as an artist, even though he came from a place and came from a sort of background where that was a real struggle for him. And I probably should have said when I was accepting the award, but I'll say it now, that he also worked as an accountant. And he continued to work as an accountant even while he started his artistic career. But he made work that described his life as a modern Indian citizen in a country where being an artist was still considered somewhat sort of, economically not viable and not something to be done by a sort of middle-class Gujarati man. He not only overcame that, but he also made work that described his life as a homosexual character who, as a gay man who expressed not just love, but also his despair, also his fears, also, the kind of contradictions that he lived through his work. I think his work was actually, and this was even a surprise for me when I started, researching the exhibition, that he was a real favorite of his fellow artists, and I think he had a real community around him who championed him, who protected him, who also made sure that Khakar was able to find his voice. And I think it's really interesting to see that in the 80s that was possible, and when we look at not just India but at South Asia today, we see that these spaces are actually, for people of our generation, getting more difficult. And I think that's why, again, to look back at a generation and say, look, they made so much progress, we've got to make sure that these spaces stay open is really important.